Why did every man in the room go silent the moment she stepped through the door, yet pretend they didn't see her? The air smelled like scorched coffee and jet fuel, a bitter mix that always clung to deployment mornings. Pilots lounged in their chairs, trading loud jokes inside Fort Davis's main briefing hall. Boots scraped against metal floors, helmets thudded onto tables, and the bravado of airmen filled the room like static, reckless, confident, untouchable. Then the door opened. Captain Norah Hayes walked in, helmet tucked under her arm, posture calm and straight. She didn't rush, didn't posture. Her presence wrapped the room in a quiet that unsettled more than any shouting could. Someone near the back muttered. Thought this was a combat briefing, not a PR shoot. Snickers followed. Someone else added she's probably here to teach yoga, and laughter circled like vultures. She said nothing, just took her seat in the front row, settling her helmet beside her. The patch on her shoulder caught in the light, a gray A-10 silhouette stitched clean beneath the name Hayes. Most ignored it. A few stared too long, trying to read something in her face that she didn't offer. The projection screen flicked on. Operation RIDGFIRE. A single word under it, EXFIL. 300 soldiers trapped below enemy-ridden ridges, cut off, running out of ammunition, minimal comms. It was hell on paper. The colonel began the briefing, voice crisp, but Norah barely heard him. She already knew the valley simply from the topography shown. She studied it with stillness that felt almost reverent. Her fingertip traced a narrow corridor where artillery nests were likely hidden. She was memorizing every path in silence. Behind her, whispers kept floating. She's too young, too quiet, never saw real battle. She remained unbothered. Silence was armor. The colonel droned on about ridge structure, likely weapon placements, evac priorities. Norah took notes without lifting her eyes. She could feel the room, some curious, some doubtful, one or two hostile. But no one saw the truth hiding behind the calm. She had already built the battlefield in her mind, layer by layer, like a map laid over scars. Someone leaned toward his buddy beside him. She's just here to check the PR box, man. Never seen real heat. They give these slots to get headlines now. Norah shifted only enough to tuck her father's old watch beneath her sleeve. The cracked glass brushed her wrist, familiar and grounding. A reminder of where she'd come from, who she used to be before she learned how fast a sky could steal someone you love. Outside the windows, early light crept over the tarmac. Every morning before she flew, she stood at the runway's edge, pressing her thumb to that broken watch face, its second hand ticking stubbornly, almost reluctant, like time had learned to ache with her. The ritual never changed. She whispered a promise, never for victory, never for survival, but clarity. Clarity keeps you alive. That was one thing her father gave her long before she earned wings. She remembered old mornings in Idaho where she grew up inside the skeleton of her father's hangar, oil under her fingernails before she could spell hydraulics. Engines hummed like prayers. Her father always said machines had personalities. You just had to listen. Norah listened until it became second nature, the breath of engines, the language of metal under pressure, the pulse of flight. The A-10s were the stubborn kind, he'd say, the brave kind, the kind that didn't quit when the fight started. She had believed him, until the day she learned even stubborn machines could fall from the sky. In the ready room afterward, the chatter surged again. Captain Nolan Reeves led the symphony, loud, confident, too confident. He sat with his boots on another chair, posture sprawling like someone who hadn't learned humility yet. You know why they assigned her to Ridgefire Escort? He asked, loud enough to ensure she heard. Because she flies safe, no risks, straight lines. HQ loves that. Laughter bubbled. Norah kept flipping through topographical data, pencil tapping lightly. Reeves leaned back, smirk heavy. They want someone who won't get emotional, stick to the checklist, play it safe. Norah paused her pencil, looked up, only briefly. I fly to bring people home, that's different. The room quieted, not because she raised her voice, but because she didn't. Because she spoke with that steady, unshakable cadence that unsettled those who mistook silence for weakness. Reeves scoffed, though not quite as loudly. Still, the others didn't stop staring. Most didn't know her story, didn't know why she moved like someone measuring every breath, why she traced her palm along her A-10's wing like she felt a heartbeat beneath metal. No one here knew about Marcus Hale. Her wingman, her equal, her brother not by blood but by sky. They had flown together until April 12, 0412, when flames swallowed him midair, a day sealed into silence. She carried that day like a tattoo carved under skin. Literally. 4112 inked faintly beneath her shoulder blade, hidden, only felt in the burn of muscle memory. That morning, before anyone else arrived, she had unfolded a creased letter from her chest pocket, Marcus's writing, the one she kept tucked close to her ribs like an extra lung. If you're reading this, it means you made it. And that's what matters. Keep flying for both of us. She pressed it to her chest before tucking it away. A promise was heavier than dog tags. She knew that now. Lieutenant Avery, young and sharp, glanced at her in the briefing. "You don't talk much, do you?" Norah blinked once. Talking never kept anyone alive. He nodded slowly, unsure whether she meant it literally. She did. Later in the simulator building, desert terrain flickered onto her screen. Reeves sat in the next pod watching her feed. He flew loose, reactive, trusting adrenaline more than physics. She flew calculated, feeling the invisible threats before they appeared. Halfway through the sim, the system threw an anomaly. Unexpected anti-air from a ridge. Reeves dove early, too early crashed virtually. Norah waited a second, just one, the difference between panic and precision. She flanked the threat and eliminated it cleanly. "Lucky break," he muttered. "Or maybe I listened," she said. Even the tech crew looked up. Her flying wasn't flashy, it was controlled, almost intimate, like she and the jet shared breath. Hours later, Colonel West assigned flight positions. Reeves lead. Hayes secondary escort. A ripple of whispers followed, some skeptical, some relieved. Norah sat straighter, eyes calm. She didn't question, didn't flinch. The colonel turned to her, tone sharp. "We need reliability, not emotion clouding judgment." A blade disguised as instruction. She felt old grief pulse beneath her ribs, but showed nothing. "Understood, sir." He didn't know it wasn't emotion she feared. It was the memory of one moment when hesitation cost everything. That night, the cafeteria filled with murmurs. Two younger pilots whispered over cheap pasta. They say she froze once, lost her wingman. Some say she still sees ghosts on radar. Their laughter was small, nervous. Norah sipped her coffee alone. She didn't look over, didn't need to. She'd heard every version of that story, each one wrong in its own way. The truth lived inside scarred memory, not retellings. Early morning drills followed. A radar anomaly flickered on a console, barely visible. Norah spotted it instantly. "Ping at 30-second intervals. That's intentional," she said to Lieutenant Harris. "Probably a glitch." "It's not." They ignored her. Hours later, tech confirmed a hidden radar unit. A lucky catch, they said. A coincidence, Reeves insisted. Norah didn't argue. Sometimes truth wasn't loud, it was patient. Later that day, a young lieutenant approached her again. "Do you ever regret flying?" She didn't respond immediately. She thought of the letter, the tattoo, the hangar her father built with hands stained by oil and ache. "I regret when I stopped listening," she said softly. He didn't understand, not fully, but he nodded, because even he could see it. She noticed everything, even when she pretended not to. That night she returned to her A-10 long after the hangar emptied. The wind carried distant thunder. Storms always came before missions, paper or sky. Her hands trailed the name Marcus had painted years ago on her fuselage, faith over fear. The letters chipped, worn but alive. She whispered, "Still with me, partner." No answer came, but the silence didn't feel empty. She sat with her aircraft in the blue hush of pre-dawn, the hangar giant and quiet around her. The base slept, except for her. Sleep required surrender, and surrender still felt like betrayal. Memory flickered, April sky, Syria, smoke. Marcus's voice cracking through comms. "I'm hit, I'm." She blinked hard. "Not tonight." The fog outside thickened, pressing against the hangar door. She stepped out, boots echoing. Somewhere far off, engines were being tested. She paused, watching them, listening. It wasn't fear that unsettled her. It was knowing. Somewhere out there, something waited, something the others were too arrogant to notice. A threat she could feel like breath on her neck. She closed her eyes just for a moment. The narrator inside her thoughts whispered, "Sometimes the quiet one isn't afraid, she's remembering." The runway lights flickered like stars shaking in the mist. She stood at the runway's edge, thumb pressed against her father's watch face, asking for clarity, not courage. Courage was the easy part. Clarity was what saved you. She inhaled, slow, controlled, and then turned away from the night, stepping back toward base. She had a promise to keep. And morning was coming. Why did she hesitate with her hand over the throttle? As if something inside her already knew the sky would demand more than she was ready to give. Morning struck fast, cold, colorless. Fog clung to the runway like a warning. The crew moved around the A-10s with hurried purpose, wrenches clinking metal, radios crackling, boots scraping across concrete. Everyone pretended nothing felt wrong. But Norah felt it. She always did. Sergeant Dawson handed her a clipboard. "Triple-checked your hydraulics. She's solid." Norah nodded, "Thank you." Her voice was calm, but something behind her eyes seemed distant, like she was listening to a conversation no one else could hear. She began her walk-around, slow, reverent, one hand trailing along the wing as though reading Braille etched into steel. Private Jenkins stood a few steps away, watching with quiet respect. He'd never seen a pilot treat an aircraft like this, like a partner, not a tool. The faint outline of her tattoo peeked beneath her sleeve again. He couldn't help himself. "Ma'am, what do the numbers mean?" Norah zipped the sleeve up carefully. "It's a reminder," she said, of what he wanted to ask. But her tone, something told him not to. She wasn't rude, just closed. Like the memory lived in a place she refused to let others enter. Her fingers paused beneath the cockpit. A small, faded photo still sat tucked under the gauge housing. She lifted it gently, two pilots, dusty desert smiles beneath a ruthless sun. Marcus Hale beside her, helmet under his arm, sharp grin, alive. She placed the photo back with a care, usually reserved for wounded things. Outside, Reeves swaggered toward his jet, helmet crooked under his elbow. He shot her a sideways smirk. "You planning on marrying that plane?" Norah didn't answer. Reeves lifted his sunglasses. "You hear they bumped our timetable. We fly sooner. You ready?" She tightened her gloves. "Always." He laughed. "See, that's what I mean. You talk like a poster. Loosen up. It's a rescue mission, not Judgment Day." She looked at him. "You only say that because you haven't seen Judgment Day." He blinked, unsure whether she was joking. She was. A junior crewman jogged up with a message, "Briefing room. Now." Inside, the air buzzed with a restless energy. Colonel West stood at the front, the map glowing behind him. "Situation has deteriorated," he began. "Ground units are taking heavy fire from both ridges. Medevac failed. We have wounded." He paused, gaze dark. And as of an hour ago, comms with their forward element went dead. A hush cut through the pilots. Reeves leaned forward. They're still alive. Some, West replied. Last intel suggests they've fallen back to defensive trenches. Supplies low. Enemy appears to be repositioning heavy artillery. The map flickered, enemy icons swarming around the valley like ants. Norah felt it again. That pressure behind the ribs. The invisible thread tugging her toward a place she'd sworn she'd never return to, a sky carved by fire. West continued. Primary mission, suppress ridge fire to secure an evac corridor. Secondary, provide overwatch until ground extraction complete. He stabbed a finger at the map. Reeves, you take lead. Hayes follows, 2 passes, repeat 2 passes. Then you return to base for refit. Do not get pinned. His eyes landed on Norah. This is not a hero run. She held his gaze without blinking. Copy. His stare lingered as though searching for something inside her, fear maybe, but her face was still, controlled. Briefing dismissed. Reeves clapped her shoulder. Just stick with me. We hit the ridges and get out. No improvising. She didn't respond, not because she disagreed, because she already knew better than to promise what she couldn't guarantee. Outside beside the A-10, a breeze swept across the tarmac, carrying the smell of rain. The storm was close. Norah felt it collect beneath her skin, pressure building, memory stirring. She opened the canopy, climbing into the cockpit like someone returning to an old wound. The harness slid across her shoulders, familiar weight settling. In her ear, Reeves' voice came through the comms. Ready to dance, Hayes. She closed her eyes once. Then, let's fly. Engines roared. Concrete shook beneath the weight of steel alive. They launched into the sky, 2 A-10s slicing through low fog, climbing beyond the gray. The air thinned. Sunlight pierced through like a blade. At 10,000 feet, the world stretched beneath them. The valley ahead burned, thick plumes rising like dying prayers. Radio chatter burst through. Alpha 21, we're pinned. Multiple wounded, we can't. Static swallowed the rest. Reeves steadied his tone. Falcon flight inbound, hold tight. Norah scanned the ridges, her breath shallow. Her HUD flickered, something was interfering. Noise, ghost signals. Reeves spoke again. We make a clean run, I take left gun nest, you take right, we pull up and wait for ground confirmation. No heroics. But something wasn't right. The ridges, they were too quiet, too still. The artillery fire below was reckless, frantic, but the ridges held their breath. She knew that feeling. Ambush. Her fingers hovered over the manual controls. The static pulse they ignored yesterday, the one they dismissed as glitch, now echoed through her bones. Falcon lead, she said. Be advised, ridgeline signatures look coordinated. Reeves snorted. Relax, they're just spraying. No, she whispered, they're waiting. Then the first missile streaked upward. Break, break, break. Reeves rolled. Norah followed tight. The missile passed inches below her wing, too close. Reeves laughed, breath sharp. Hot welcome. But Norah didn't. Her pulse hammered. This wasn't random fire. This was guided, trained. She banked left, scanning. Her HUD glitched again, white static. Then another missile alarm. Reeves dove too shallow. The second missile clipped his engine. Smoke burst from his right side, flame trailing. Mayday, mayday, I'm. Static cut him off. His A-10 spiraled, eject sequence firing. A lone chute unfolded into the smoke, the smallest, most fragile hope against chaos. Norah's breath caught, held. The image slammed into her like a memory. Another jet falling, another voice breaking over comms. Marcus. Not again. Colonel West's voice barked through her headset. Falcon 2, do not engage. Maintain altitude, await orders. Down below, voices screamed across broken comms. We're pinned. They're moving on us. We're gonna. Gunfire swallowed them. Her gloved hand shook over the throttle, not from fear, remembering. "Falcon 2, Wes repeated. "Stand down." Her heartbeat slowed. That strange clarity, cold, absolute, slipped over her. She looked at the valley, at the wounded, at the smoke curling upward like pleading hands. Her father once told her, "Machines don't make choices, pilots do." She closed her eyes. Marcus's voice flickered again, not memory but promise. "If one of us falls, the other keeps flying." She exhaled. "Falcon 2, she whispered, "engaging." She dove. The A-10 screamed toward the valley, cutting through black smoke. Wind howled across metal. The targeting system stuttered, useless. She flipped it off. "Manual. Old school." Her father's voice, listened to the machine, echoed in her bones. Her hands flew over controls, guiding steel through fire. The ridges closed around her, claustrophobic, angry. Tracer fire traced the sky like burning ropes. She dipped low, so low treetops scraped her underbelly. Gunfire burst beneath. She aligned the first ridge. Squeezed the trigger. The GAU-8 spat death, a roar so deep it became a heartbeat. Rounds tore into the hillside, ripping apart artillery nests. Dirt exploded upward. Ground radio cut through. "That's her. She's inside the valley." "Holy." Norah didn't hear the rest. She banked hard, pressing into the ridge's shadow, tracing memory, not maps. The valley was a labyrinth of danger, but she had flown worse. Syria. Project Falcon Gate. 4112. She danced with death before. The second nest lit up, missile lock imminent. She rolled inverted beneath a rock shelf, squeezing another burst. The nest vanished in shrapnel and smoke. Her radio screamed. "Falcon 2, abort. You are not cleared for." Ground fire neutralized. Her voice cut clean through the chaos. "No panic. No pride. Just truth." She caught sight of Reeves, parachute drifting, snagging on a ledge. He was alive, hurt but breathing. A wave of relief cracked against her chest. She forced it down. There were still soldiers below. She climbed, arcing through smoke. The valley floor revealed itself, men dragging wounded into trenches, explosions lighting their faces. She thought she saw Marcus there for a split second, helmet askew, grin sharp. But that was memory stunning real. She dove again. Another ridge. Another nest. The GAU-8 tore it apart. Her radio came alive, voices shaking. "She's covering us. Keep moving. Go, go." She lined up another target, breath steady even as her cockpit filled with heat and ash. Static rattled in her ear. Then, a whisper. "Viper 21. Her old call sign. No one should know that. No one." Her blood ran cold. The voice repeated. "Viper 21, you're not done." She swallowed. Not Marcus's voice, not command, something else. Memory or ghost. She silenced it, focused. Another run. She fired. And the ridge went quiet. Smoke rolled upward. Silence followed, brief, trembling. "Command," she said. "Valley corridor clear, begin extraction." Silence. Then, "Copy that, Falcon 2. Outstanding work." Hands trembling, she stared at the landscape below, the same kind that once swallowed her partner. Now she carved an exit through it. Hundreds below would live. Because she refused to stand down. Reeves' chute clung to the ridge, rescue team inbound. Norah circled, low and slow, watching over the valley like a sentinel of smoke and steel. The clarity faded. Adrenaline ebbed. Breath returned. Her voice softened. "Marcus, we did it." No answer. Only wind. Only silence. Only the unspoken truth. She hadn't flown for orders. She'd flown for every name still breathing. And for the one name already gone. What terrified her more, the silence after the battle, or the voices returning with it? Smoke drifted upward in thin ribbons, blurring the horizon into a gray that felt neither like dawn nor dusk. Captain Norah Hayes kept her A-10 circling low over the valley, eyes scanning every ridge, every fracture of stone that could hide fire. The earth beneath her still smoldered, black streaks cutting through broken trenches where soldiers huddled, wounded and exhausted, staring up at the sight of a single aircraft keeping watch. For a moment, no one fired. No explosions. No screaming radio calls. Just breathing hers and theirs. It was the most dangerous kind of quiet. Down below, rescue medics sprinted between bodies. The extraction zone had begun to take shape, hasty, desperate, but real. Soldiers lifted their wounded into armored carriers, voices low, disbelief still thick in the air. Falcon 2, break off, command called. Refuel and regroup. We've got reinforcements en route. Norah didn't reply. She dipped under a ridge, banking sharply, searching again. She didn't trust quiet valleys. They had teeth. Static crackled suddenly in her headset, not voices, not interference, something colder. Rapid pulses, signals repeating. Her heart lurched. The same pattern she'd seen on radar the night before. The same anomaly they'd ignored. Her throat tightened. Falcon 2 to command, multiple pings at North Ridge. Repeat, hostile signatures still active. Negative Falcon 2, command answered, far too calm. Scans show clear, you're reading ghosts. Ghosts? The word hollowed something inside her. She still remembered Syria, hearing comms that shouldn't have been there. Seeing radar movement where the higher screen swore it was empty. Marcus trusting her gut, then paying the price when no one else did. We misread the valley once, she whispered. Not again. Falcon 2, West snapped. We don't have time for your instincts. Return to base. Instincts? As if that was all she had. Norah exhaled slowly. For a moment she was back in that desert sky where smoke drowned the sun, where two jets became one too fast. She could almost hear Marcus's breath over comms. Hayes, talk to me. I'm hit. Her eyes shut. Not now. Below, the last trucks pulled out. Dust trailed behind them like ghosts of their own. They needed cover, her cover. Norah banked again, dropping altitude without permission. Falcon 2, West barked. You are violating directive. She didn't answer. Not yet. The valley felt wrong, like a song whose rhythm suddenly slipped. A shadow stirred along the north ridge. Her pulse hit hard. Then a streak of metal. Missile launch, North Ridge. She yanked the stick hard right, nearly skimming stone as she threw the A-10 into a roll. The missile passed so close she felt its heat vibrate through the frame. Command was silent. Norah didn't give them room to argue. She dove low and fired, cannon bursts ripping into the ridge. Smoke ballooned, rock flying as another launcher was exposed, then shredded. That's your ghost, she hissed. The radio stayed quiet, stunned. She didn't need their permission to save lives. Two medevac birds were inbound now, Chedak hellos, vulnerable, slow. They needed the sky clean. She made another pass, hunting movement through smoke. Her hands moved without hesitation, muscle memory older than grief. She lined up her shot, fired. A nest exploded. Then another. Still something gnawed at her, a silence too still to trust. The radio finally broke. Falcon 2. Colonel West's voice was quieter now. Continue overwatch, you're cleared. She didn't need clearance, but she accepted it. She climbed, checking for Reeves still alive, dangling like a leaf from the mountainside. Rescue nearing Reeves, command said. Hold airspace steady. Norah circled back, slow, steady. She let her mind drift only because the valley suddenly felt safer. The first time since she dropped in. The smoke below swirled in soft spirals. If she squinted, she could almost imagine it was incense in her father's hangar, the way sunlight used to paint the dusk gold as he taught her to listen to engines. "Machines speak," he'd say, "not in words, in rhythm." And when they went quiet, you knew something was coming. Her father had died of a bad heart before ever seeing her fly. She buried him the week she got her wings, the irony cruel, the timing unforgiving. The only person who believed she would survive the sky never saw her take it. Sometimes the universe taught lessons by withholding their witness. She flew a little lower, checking the valley floor. Trucks moved slowly but steady, wounded leaning against one another. She watched one soldier cradle another's helmet, touching foreheads briefly before boarding. These were the moments no one talked about, the ones without explosions. Quiet grief, quiet loyalty, quiet courage. Her throat tightened. She wondered, did they think she was reckless, lucky, or did they understand what it meant to disobey for the sake of those who couldn't fly away? War turned rules into glass, flexible, until the moment they shattered. The rescue team finally reached Reeves, cutting him free. His voice came faint but alive. "Falcon 2, oh, you drink." Norah allowed herself a small smile. "You owe me a landing," she replied softly. Static hummed, not interference, a pulse, slow, rhythmic, her breath hitched. "Not again." "North, same coordinates." "Second launcher." "Hidden deeper." She rolled toward it before command could protest. Through the haze she saw it, half buried under rocks, camouflaged, waiting for a bigger target. A hello maybe, or the convoy. Her teeth clenched. She dove. No HUD this time, smoke too thick. She flew by instinct, memory, the quiet resolve of someone who'd already died once and kept flying. The ridge flashed, two figures manning the launcher, silhouettes swallowed by the roar of her GAU-8. Another bloom of fire. Another silence returned. Radio crackle. All clear. Relief washed warm through her chest. Then, another whisper. Viper 21. Her hand froze. She wasn't hallucinating. This time, the voice wasn't inside her head. It was coming through the comms. "Command," her voice strained. "Who's transmitting on secure channel?" "Silence." She switched frequencies. "Identify yourself." Only breathing answered, calm, familiar. Nora's skin crawled beneath her flight suit. It wasn't possible. Then, the voice again. Not desperate. Not pained. Just steady. "Hayes." Her eyes burned. "Marcus." No, it couldn't be. He died, she watched him fall. She kept his letter. She carved his memory into her bones. The breathing faded. Signal cut. Only static remained. She sat frozen, circling above a battlefield suddenly too silent, too empty, a battlefield that had taken one voice and returned only echoes. "Falcon 2 returned to base," West said. She didn't respond. Her throat closed, mind spinning. She checked logs, no outgoing ID, no encrypted sender, no transponder. Nothing. Like it had never been there. Clouds gathered in the distance, storm brewing hard against the ridgeline. She banked toward home, the A-10 rumbling under her like an old friend. Halfway home, her hands began to shake, not from fear. Recognition. When Marcus went down, she never heard a scream, never heard impact, just static, then silence. And in that silence, a single word before it all went black. "Hayes." The same tone, same cadence. She swallowed hard. Her eyes welled, but she blinked the moisture away. This wasn't the time. The air base appeared ahead, Fort Davis, quiet, waiting. As she descended, she saw dozens of soldiers gathered near the runway, some still wearing bloodied bandages. When her wheels touched down, dust rose in a soft halo. Engines whined low, cooling from fury. No one moved. The canopy hissed open. Norah stepped onto the metal ladder, boots slow, unsure. Her face was streaked with soot, sweat, something else. Not pride, just exhaustion. The soldiers began to move toward her, hesitant at first, then faster. A sergeant limped forward, raising a trembling hand in salute. Another followed, then another. Within seconds, dozens stood saluting her, silent, reverent. She didn't return the gesture. She just looked at them, eyes searching for something she couldn't name. One private mouthed, "Thank you." She nodded once, barely. Colonel West approached, slow, steady. He stopped in front of her. "You disobeyed." A hush fell. His eyes softened. "You also saved them." The words carried weight, not admiration, not apology. "Truth." She nodded once. "Just doing my job, sir." He opened his mouth, paused, closed it. He stepped back. Reeves limped toward her, left arm in a sling, grin crooked. "You're insane," he said softly. Then his voice broke. "Thank you." Norah looked at him. The wind lifted her hair, brushing soot from her cheek. "You're welcome." He swallowed hard. "Doesn't fix what I said before." "It wasn't about me," she murmured. Reeves hesitated, then nodded, ashamed. Silence stretched, heavy, human. Norah walked past him, past the crowd, back toward the hangar. Her steps slow, weighted. She slid her hand along her A-10, whispering something only the metal could hear. Inside her pocket, Marcus's letter pressed against her heart, warm from heat and memory. She paused. Her father once told her, "Machines remember the ones who flew true." But ghosts remembered something else. Not courage. Debt. Norah turned toward the runway, eyes narrowing. The valley was far, smoke faint but still rising. She felt a tremor ripple through her chest again, the same one she felt before the first missile fired. Something wasn't over. Something was waiting. And as the sky bruised into evening, she knew one truth with unsettling clarity. The valley hadn't finished speaking. And she wasn't done listening. Why did the wind feel different that night, like it carried a warning meant only for her? The bass had quieted, but the quiet didn't feel peaceful. It felt watchful. Norah walked the length of the hangar alone, boots tapping softly against concrete. The loomed beside her, streaked with soot and dust, still breathing in its own way. She rested her hand against the metal skin, fingertips tracing the faded paint of faith over fear. Marcus' handwriting. Her throat tightened. The moment she'd landed, everything had felt sharp. The salutes, the whispers, the wide-eyed stares of men who'd seen death and somehow lived anyway. But now it felt far away, like memory trying to retell itself before fatting. Inside the hangar, she perched on an overturned crate, helmet resting beside her. She cracked her knuckles out of habit, but her hands trembled not from fear, from the adrenaline still dissolving beneath her skin. She felt his voice again. Not a memory, a presence. "Viper 21, you're not done." That tone, calm, steady, the same way Marcus sounded right before the world ended. She shut her eyes. He's gone. But the comms signals don't lie, not the way people do. She pulled the letter from her suit. The edges were soft, corners worn down to threads. She'd memorized every word years ago, but she still read it when doubt crept in. "If you're reading this, it means you made it. Keep flying for both of us." Her fingers hovered over the page. "Is that what this is?" she whispered. "Flying for you or chasing ghosts?" No answer came. Only the hum of cooling engines, the distant echo of trucks rolling into the motor pool, the hush of night settling like a thin blanket over base and bone. She folded the letter, pressing it against her chest before tucking it away. A voice broke the stillness. "You did good today." Norah looked up. Colonel West stood a few feet away, his posture stiff, his face unreadable. He lingered near the edge of light like he didn't want the whole room to see him there. 300 soldiers made it home because of you, he said quietly. Norah nodded, but her eyes didn't lift. Reeves is lucky you were there, he added. He'll fly again, she murmured. West hesitated, then studied her face. You heard something up there. It wasn't a question. Norah didn't answer. Your comm logs were scrambled, he continued. We ran diagnostics. No transmissions recorded. Nothing on encrypted channels. Nothing from the ground. She stayed still. So I need to know, he said, voice softening. What did you hear? She tilted her head just enough that the overhead lights caught the edge of her eyes. Nothing I can explain, she whispered. West looked at her a long moment. You were Viper 21 once, he said finally. Norah's jaw tightened, a subtle shift barely there. He nodded to himself, as if confirming his suspicion. I read the sealed file, he said. Everything except the classified attachments at least. I know what happened in Syria. She looked away. You flew into a kill box and brought 80 men home. Alone. He paused. They said you didn't hesitate. They said your wingman was dead before you even turned back. Her breathing hitched. That part wasn't true. He wasn't dead. Not right away. West took a step closer. They also said you heard him after he went down. Norah's eyes snapped to his. West's face darkened. That's why Command grounded you for 6 months. They called it psychological misfire. His tone softened. I call it trauma. Norah swallowed. They thought you imagined him still flying, still speaking. She stayed silent. West crouched slightly, eye level now. I don't think you imagined anything. Something flickered inside her chest, surprise, fear, maybe relief. It was hard to separate them now. But, West continued, I need you to understand something. His voice lowered. If whatever you heard today follows you into the next mission, I need to know you can stay in the fight. She held his gaze. I can. It was the first thing she'd said, with absolute certainty all night. West nodded, exhaling. Then rest. Ridgefire is still moving. We may need you again sooner than you think. He turned to leave, but stopped when she spoke. The valley wasn't done. West paused. There was a second launcher, buried, waiting. We saw. No, she whispered, there's more. West studied her silently. Something's coming, she murmured. I can feel it. West's eyes softened, but there was no reassurance in them. We'll be ready, he said. Neither believed it. Her bunk felt foreign that night, sheets crisp, mattress stiff, as if she'd never slept there at all. Her body lay still, but her mind soared low over that valley again, smelling smoke, hearing screams, hearing. Marcus. She sat up abruptly, breath sharp. The barracks were quiet, filled with steady breathing from other pilots pretending sleep came easy. She swung her legs off the bed, pulled on her jacket, and walked back into the night. She found herself at the edge of the runway again, thumb pressed against her father's watch, cracked face reflecting moonlight. The same ritual. Same prayer. Clarity. She whispered into the wind. What are you trying to tell me? The wind answered with silence, then electricity. A faint glow flickered across the far horizon, dull, pulsing. Not lightning, something slower, repeating. Her stomach clenched. Radar pulse. Same pattern. Someone else was scanning. Scanning them. A shape moved behind her. Norah turned hand, dropping instinctively to where her sidearm should be. But it was only Reeves. His sling hung awkwardly at his shoulder, He looked pale, exhausted, but alive. "You're not sleeping either," he said. She shook her head. He joined her at the runway edge, staring across the dark field. "Been thinking," he murmured, voice quiet. "I talked a lot of crap about you." She didn't deny it. "I thought you were here for show, to make someone in DC look good," he swallowed. "But today you didn't hesitate." Norah's voice was barely audible. I hesitated." Reeves frowned. "When?" Her jaw clenched. "In Syria." Reeves froze. He'd heard rumors, whispers of what happened, but no one knew. "He was still alive," she said, "for a moment." Her voice cracked soft, barely there. "He wasn't gone, not yet." Reeves said nothing. "I heard him," she continued, "over comms, clear, talking, telling me to keep flying." Reeves blinked slowly. "And today?" he asked. Norah looked at him. "I heard him again." Reeves stared, unable to laugh it off, unable to dismiss it. "Maybe it's memory," he offered gently, "or stress." Norah shook her head. "It wasn't in my head, it came through comms, wrong frequency." Reeves didn't know what to say. Some truths resisted comfort. Before he could try, the distant horizon pulsed again, brighter now. He stiffened. "What is that?" Norah didn't answer. She already knew. "Not lightning. Not artillery. A signal. Calling." Reeves whispered, "You think it's them." Norah swallowed, voice barely a breath. "No." She stared into the dark. "I think it's him." Reeves turned to her slowly. "You think Marcus is alive?" Norah shook her head. "No." A pause. "But something from that sky still is." The pulse flickered again, then faded into black. Norah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the unanswered hovering around her. Reeves shifted beside her, uneasy. "What now?" Norah opened her eyes. The wind carried dust across the runway, brushing against their boots like a quiet warning. "Now," she whispered, "we wait." Her father used to tell her, "Machines speak when danger is near." But ghosts only speak when something unresolved demands breathing room. And somewhere out there, something unresolved was waking. Norah didn't know if it was memory or omen. She only knew one thing. The sky wasn't finished with her yet. What do you do when the past refuses to stay buried and starts calling your name from the sky? Dawn crept over Fort Davis in muted color, a slow bleed of orange and gray across the horizon. No trumpet, no announcement, just light and the tired footsteps of those who survived another night. Norah hadn't slept. Her bunk remained untouched, sheets still tight, pillows still cool. Instead, she'd stayed at the runway edge, watching that faint pulse flicker across the distant ridgeline until it disappeared with the stars. Reeves stayed too, though she could tell he didn't understand why his feet refused to move away, why something kept him standing there beside her like gravity had shifted. At first light, he broke the silence. "Maybe you should talk to West about it." Norah's gaze stayed on the valley, hidden beyond the mountains. "I did," she murmured. "And he told me to rest." Reeves exhaled, long and slow. "You ever think maybe you need to?" She didn't answer. He expected that. The fog lifted off the tarmac like breath from a sleeping beast. The looming A-10 stood still, predators waiting for the next hunt. Ground crews returned. Yawning, clutching coffee they prayed would burn away exhaustion. But those who'd seen Norah fly, who'd watched her drop into hell alone, looked at her differently now. Not with mockery. With caution. With respect. With a little fear. Reeves walked beside her toward the hangar. His sling bobbed with each step, pain etched in his face. Still, he moved with purpose, as if staying near her granted him some kind of invisible protection. You know, he said, when Command assigned you to Ridgefire, I figured they were just trying to fill quotas. Thought you'd bail the second things got real. She didn't react. Then you dove, he continued. And I crashed before I could do anything worth writing home about. You lived, Norah said. Reeves blinked. Yeah, because you. That's worth writing home about. His pace faltered. He frowned, unsettled. You know, I thought you were cold, but you're not. She didn't look at him. I'm just doing what I promised. To who? The answer sat behind her ribs, heavy and constant. To the ones who didn't make it home. Reeves swallowed, as though realizing how shallow his understanding of war had been until now. Inside the hangar, mechanics surrounded her aircraft. They paused as she entered, almost unconsciously stepping aside as though making room for something sacred. Dawson handed her a status sheet. She's ready, he said. You good, Captain? His tone wasn't routine. It carried weight, concern. Norah nodded. Good enough. Dawson hesitated. Anything you need, ma'am, you tell me, I mean that. She met his eyes. The sincerity there felt like a rare gift. Thank you. She moved past him, climbing onto the maintenance platform to study her plane. She trailed her palm across the leading edge of the wing, listening. Metal didn't speak in language, it spoke in feeling. Today it felt taut, restless. Just like her. She heard footsteps behind her. Avery climbed the ladder, carrying a tablet. Captain, he said quietly, I digitized your flight log. She waited. Something odd showed up. Norah turned. Avery tapped the screen. These timestamps, he pointed. There's a comms event right here 5 seconds long, but there's no source, no system signature, nothing. He swallowed. It's blank, like someone erased where it came from. Norah stared at the gap. A black bar, empty, silent. Her pulse quickened, though her face remained still. Avery looked nervous. Captain, did you hear anything during the mission? Norah closed the tablet softly and handed it back. Nothing you need to worry about. Avery nodded, though worry remained. But he didn't ask again. Something about her tone shut the door without slamming it. She climbed down and moved toward the exit, but Reeves intercepted her. His expression said he'd overheard. You're going to have to talk about it eventually, he murmured. I did, she said. I told West. I mean really talk. She brushed past him. There's no time for that. That afternoon, Colonel West gathered the squadron in the ready room. His face sagged with exhaustion. Maps flickered behind him, red dots marking the valley, more than before. The enemy had reinforced overnight. Ridgefire wasn't over. We've confirmed new artillery placements, West said. They're digging in around the evacuation corridor. If they finish, no Hello gets out alive. A tension thickened the room. Reeves lowered himself carefully into a chair, arms still bound. Norah stood in the back, arms crossed, jaw tight. West continued. We're sending 3 aircraft to sweep the corridor again. Hayes, your lead this time. No one commented. No snickers. No muttering. Just silence. Reeves straightened. You're sending her in alone. West shook his head. No, Lieutenant Avery will support. Avery jerked upright, startled. He'd never flown real combat. He looked toward Norah, wide-eyed, almost apologetic, like he wanted to ask, how do I become you in 48 hours? Norah studied him, then nodded once, acceptance and warning. West tapped the map. Unknown signatures pinged before sunrise, same pattern as yesterday. Reeves stiffened. The signal, he whispered. West nodded tightly. We don't know what it is. Could be enemy radar, could be decoy tech, could be, he hesitated, something else. His eyes flicked toward Norah. She held his gaze, expression calm but sharpened. When do we launch? She asked. 1800. He stepped forward. Hayes, he said softly, if you see something that doesn't make sense, you fall back. We can't afford another pilot down. It was as close to "I'm worried about you" as he would ever say out loud. Norah nodded, but her silence said something different. I'm not leaving them behind. Avery glanced at her nervously. Ma'am, he whispered, what if I make the wrong call out there? Her voice stayed low. Everyone makes the wrong call eventually. What matters is what you do after. He blinked. What did you do? She looked at him, really looked, something raw behind her eyes. I kept flying. The hours before launch moved strangely, too slow outside, too fast inside. Norah spent the time alone with her aircraft, running her hands along every seam, every rivet, like she could will the jet to survive. She found herself tracing the faded lettering again. Faith over fear. She closed her eyes. I'm trying, she whispered. Her father's voice drifted from memory. Fear is loud. Faith is quiet. Listen for the quiet things, they keep you alive. Her throat tightened. From her pocket, she drew Marcus's letter again. She didn't unfold it this time. She just held it. Were you trying to tell me something? She whispered. Before you left. The hangar swallowed her words. A shadow moved at the edge of the bay. Reeves stood there, leaning against a crate, watching her with an expression she hadn't seen before. Not pity. Recognition. Avery's scared out of his mind, he said. He should be, she replied. Reeves managed a thin laugh, not helping. It's war, she said, not a seminar. He nodded slowly. West wants you to take it easy, he murmured. That's his job. And yours. She looked toward the runway. To get them home. Reeves swallowed. You think the signal's coming from enemy tech? No. You think it's Marcus. She didn't answer. Because truth didn't need confirmation to be real. Reeves exhaled. Then what is it? Norah looked at him, eyes dark with a knowing she wished she didn't have. Something unfinished. He frowned, that's not. He stopped. Because something in her face told him the conversation was over, not out of avoidance, out of acceptance. Some truths weren't meant to be solved. Only carried. Engines ignited. Norah climbed into her A-10, every movement deliberate. Avery's voice crackled over comms, tight, shaky. Falcon team online. Norah responded with a steady hum that soothed him more than any pep talk could. The runway stretched before them, a clean path into chaos. Dawson raised a hand beneath her cockpit, a simple gesture. Come back. Norah lowered her visor. Let's go hunting. The A-10s roared forward, metal monsters rising into a bruised sky. Thunder rumbled across the distant mountains. The valley waited. Somewhere inside it, the signal pulsed again, calling her. And as clouds swallowed her entry into that darkened world, she whispered the only truth she still trusted. Sometimes the ones who are gone aren't finished speaking. This time she intended to listen. Who was waiting for her in that valley, enemy, memory, or something she wasn't meant to understand? The sky darkened faster than it should have. Clouds building, thick as smoke, rolling low over the ridgeline like they were trying to smother the horizon. Wind buffeted the A-10's wings, and for a second Norah felt the same pressure building in her chest, unseen but heavy. Avery's voice trembled over comms. Visibility's dropping fast. Weather wasn't in the brief. Norah scanned the instruments. It was a beat. So should we turn back? Silence. She watched the ridge ahead, jagged, black, alive with shifting cloud. She heard the distant pulse again, faint, rhythmic, like a heartbeat too slow to be human. No, she said finally, we keep going. Avery swallowed audibly. Roger. She steady rolled, letting instinct guide what logic couldn't. Clouds parted just enough to reveal the valley, a scar carved through the mountains, dark veins of forest and broken trails leading into enemy ground. Something about it felt wrong, like the world was holding its breath. Falcon 2, she said quietly, stay tight. Low entry west side. Avery exhaled shakily. You've done this before, right? Norah didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence said everything. They descended. The valley swallowed them. The world dimmed, mountains towering on both sides, slanting down into shadow that felt too deep for daylight. Norah kept her eyes ahead, hands firm on the stick. Avery's breathing echoed through comms, fast, unsteady. Captain, I'm picking up interference. Source. Unknown, signal spike northwest quadrant. Exactly where the pulse had come from. Stay calm, she said. He tried, she could hear the effort, but fear wasn't something you reasoned with. It just sat with you. A faint static trickled through her headset, like whispering through walls. She stiffened. Here again. The same tone. Same hum. Marcus. Norah's breath hitched, but she didn't speak. Not yet. Avery gasped. Ma'am, I'm getting a comm ping, but there's no signature, no ID. It's shadowed. Shadowed. Her pulse quickened. Kill your crossfeed, narrow band. Avery fumbled, done. Static cleared, but the faint whisper remained, unintelligible except for her. She heard it. Just faint enough to question. Just clear enough to believe. Viper 21 left. Her blood ran cold. Avery didn't react, he hadn't heard it. Norah turned. A shoulder of rock jutted out from the ridge, nearly invisible beneath cloud cover. Had she gone straight, she would have clipped it clean. She veered left. Avery yelped. What was that? Terrain, she said. But inside she knew better. It wasn't her that saw it. She wouldn't have. Not in time. Marcus did. Her throat tightened. She steadied her breathing. Eyes up, she said. We still have a job. Avery stuttered a response, trying to recenter. They banked lower, and there it was. Enemy artillery, fresh dug, camouflaged under broken tree cover, just like yesterday, except now there were 2 batteries, not 1, and their barrels pointed east toward the evacuation corridor. If ground forces moved now, they'd be shredded. Targets confirmed, she said. Avery's voice steadied, lasing the first battery. Her HUD lit up, crosshair aligning. Fire. Avery's rocket streaked through shadow like a spark from God, exploding into a blossom of orange. Flames licked tree trunks, smoke spiraling upward, and suddenly everything below woke up. Gunfire flashed from the tree line. Multiple AA positions, Avery shouted. Break right, she ordered. He peeled wide, tracers cutting behind him like claws. Norah dropped low, almost grazing river water, and powered through. The Warthog's engine roared, eating fear for fuel. A flash of motion ahead. Sam, launch. Avery, talk to me. Tracking. He fired. The missile exploded midair. His whoop erupted over comms, relief raw and unmasked. But Norah barely heard him. The whisper came again, louder this time. Viper 21, 2 more north face, hidden. She swallowed. The words slipped through static like someone drowning trying to speak. Avery, she said quietly, north face, look again. What? There's nothing. Look. He scanned, 30 seconds passed, 10 too long. Norah felt her skin crawl. Avery gasped. 2 batteries buried, no heat signature. How did you? She cut him off. Target the first, I'll take the second. He didn't question her. He trusted her now. Maybe he shouldn't. Maybe she shouldn't trust herself. But trust wasn't a luxury here. It was a weapon. They dove, fire raining from sky into unseen guns, metal shrieking, trees bursting into flame. The valley erupted. Smoke thickened. The mountains shook. Norah pulled up hard, breath knocking from her chest. Avery followed, barely. Targets down, Avery breathed. Holy hell, there was no way to know those were there. Norah didn't answer. She didn't have to. The voice knew. Avery's tone softened, awed. Captain, how did you? Static ripped through comms. A scream of interference, violent, electric. Avery panicked. I lost nav. She steadied her breathing. It's okay. It's not I can't see, I'm blind here. Avery, listen to my voice. His gasps were sharp, rapid. Just listen. She guided him through pure calm, her tone slow, decisive. Climb 500 feet, roll left, level. He followed, hands unsteady but obedient. You're clear, she said. His breathing eased. Copy, thank you. Then static again. This time not noise. A voice. Faint. Broken. Her whole body froze. Norah. Her heart slammed. No mistake. Not imagination. Not memory. Marcus. Her vision blurred, wind roaring around her, her fingers trembling against steel. Avery didn't respond. He didn't hear it. This time it was just for her. Her throat locked. Static pulsed again. You're not alone. Her stomach dropped. The next whisper was worse. He's not who you think. Her breath left her. What? She whispered, voice cracking. Avery jolted. Captain, what's wrong? She didn't answer. The whisper faded, dissolving into static, then silence. Norah's hands shook. He's not who you think. Who? Avery. West. Someone else. Her mind raced too fast. A shadow moved below, vehicles fleeing deeper into the mountains. Avery steadied. Captain, next target. She blinked, forcing herself back. Focus. Marking now. But her voice had lost its steadiness. Avery noticed. You good? Norah lied. Yes. She dove again, but her nerves betrayed her. A round grazed the right wing, sparks scattering. Captain. I'm fine. The jet shuddered. She flew lower, angrier, reckless. Something inside her was unraveling, not from fear, but from uncertainty. How do you fight an enemy you can't see? How do you trust the living when the dead start speaking? A blast boomed below. One of the vehicles exploded. Avery cheered, relief flooding back in. But Norah didn't celebrate. Her ears strained, waiting. Listening. Nothing came. Silence. Maybe she imagined it. Maybe. You're not alone. She nearly flinched, breath choking. Avery was still talking, calling out grid lines, flight arcs, but his words faded under the memory echo that wasn't memory at all. She forced herself to speak. Falcon 2, we're finishing the corridor sweep, no lingering. Copy. It was the safest order, the obvious order, the sane order. But sanity wasn't what she heard. Her father's voice drifted in. Listen for the quiet things. Quiet wasn't comforting anymore. Quiet was terrifying. He's not who you think. The valley wind shifted, a cold stillness sliding through metal and bone. Her stomach nodded. Because sometimes the dead warn you. Sometimes the dead haunt you. But sometimes the dead are trying to save you. And somewhere between static and memory, Norah realized. She wasn't the only one listening. Something else was listening back. What truth was hiding behind those whispers, and why did it feel like she was flying toward it instead of away? The valley began to open, its shadowed walls falling behind them as the smoke thinned. But even as daylight returned, Norah felt darker inside, like part of her had stayed in there, like something had followed. Avery's voice steadied into routine. Corridor is clear, ground should be able to move. But he sounded unsure, like routine itself was holding him together. Norah didn't blame him. It was the only thing holding her too. Her mind kept circling, unable to land. He's not who you think. The words crawled under her skin, settling somewhere deep. They weren't warning. They weren't threat. They were truth. And truth always costs. "Captain," Avery whispered. She snapped back. "Go ahead." "You didn't confirm, am I reading right? No more armor." She scanned below, structures smoldered, vehicles burned. The ground was torn open where artillery once slept. No movement. "Confirmed, corridor secure." Avery exhaled shakily. "Good, because if I had to fire another rocket, I think I'd." He stopped. Static flickered. "No, no, please." Then, silence. "Avery, report." "Nothing." "Avery." Still nothing. A cold spike slid down her spine. She banked hard, rolling back into the valley. Falcon 2 sound off. Nothing. Dread crept in slow, quiet, too quiet. Then, I'm here, ma'am." His voice was small, shaking, like a child lost in the dark. "What happened?" I don't know, everything went black. I couldn't see. I think someone jammed me." "Are you stable?" I think so." She steadied her breath. "Then form up, we're leaving." "Yes, yes, ma'am." His voice cracked. They climbed toward clearing sky, but Norah's eyes drifted back over her shoulder, scanning the valley, the smoke, the broken earth. Something felt unfinished. Not the mission. Sorry. Then another sound. Soft. A whisper slipping through static. She froze, breath wedged in her chest. "You shouldn't trust him." Her skin prickled. "Marcus," she whispered. Avery didn't answer. He hadn't heard. The comms crackled again, and this time the voice was sharper, urgent. "They're lying to you." Her pulse hammered. "Who?" she breathed. Static swallowed the whisper, tearing it apart before she could catch more. Avery's voice cut through, frightened. "Captain, I'm picking up another signal spike. Not enemy fire. Not radar. Something else. A low-frequency rumble, like the valley was growling." Then she saw it. A glint of metal deep below, tucked against the rock wall, half buried beneath camo netting. Too big to be artillery. Too still to be a vehicle. "What is that?" Avery breathed. She felt it before she understood it, a sharp pressure behind her sternum, like recognition. Her HUD flickered. Anomaly detected. No signature. No history. "Captain?" Avery asked. She didn't answer. The whisper returned, broken, desperate. "Don't go down there." Her breath faltered. This time Avery reacted, but not to the voice. "Ma'am, my controls, they're sluggish, I can't." Norah steadied. "Climb." "I can't, it's pulling me." He was drifting toward the object, like a magnet had him on a string. "Full throttle," she ordered. "It's not responding, Panic swelled in his voice. "Norah Dove." "Avery, listen." Her engine screamed as she dropped altitude fast, wings shaking from the speed. The object flickered like heat, like it wasn't just metal. Avery's A-10 was sliding off course, not in chaos but in guidance. Something wanted him. Not him. You. The whisper bled through, soft, mournful. Norah's chest tightened. Her breath came uneven now, her heart beat too loud in her ears. Falcon 2, eject, now. No, I can stay with it, I can. Avery, eject. Static. Then. I'm trying. Nora's HUD screamed proximity alerts. She dropped lower under him, nudging her wing beneath his tail, trying to stabilize him through sheer force. Pull back. I can't, Captain. His voice broke. She heard him starting to cry, quiet, ashamed. I don't want to die. Something in her cracked. She remembered Marcus's last words, not tactical, not heroic. Just small. I'm scared, Norah. She wouldn't lose someone like that again. Look at me, she whispered, even though he couldn't see her. You're going home, you hear me? A pause. Yes, ma'am. Her brain spun, searching for anything she could use. And then, the whisper came not like warning, but like instruction. Cut his power now. Norah didn't think. She acted. She flipped frequency, reached across control relay, and remotely triggered Falcon 2's emergency power cut. Avery's engines choked, then died. His jet stopped fighting, stopped gliding toward the unknown. Norah caught him in clean air, guiding his deadweight upward with a shallow push of her own slipstream. Avery, eject. He didn't hesitate this time. The canopy blasted. A burst of white slammed skyward, his chute opening perfectly. Norah watched it bloom, relief shaking her to the bone. Avery lived, but his A-10 didn't. It spiraled, silent, powerless, before crashing into the valley floor with a distant bloom of fire. The explosion echoed between mountains, and with it, the object below flickered. For a moment, it shimmered like it wasn't entirely real. Then it began to sink into the rock itself. Norah stared, breath gone. Something was wrong with the world. Falcon lead, a voice cut in ground team. We see a chute, is that? Avery's alive, she said, voice hollow. Copy, we're sending rescue. Norah barely heard them. Her eyes stayed locked on the valley. But it was gone. The object, the shimmer, the pull, gone. Like it was never there. Only smoke remained. She exhaled slow, trembling. Then another whisper threaded through the silence, soft, fragile. You can't save them all. Her throat closed. Marcus. She shut her eyes. What are you trying to tell me? She whispered. Her own voice felt small. The reply came like an ache. The truth is closer than you think. A hush followed, heavier than silence. Then the calm snapped back, loud, alive, oblivious. Falcon lead status, respond. Norah steadied her breathing. Falcon lead, returning to base. She banked out of the valley, climbing into thinning clouds. But as she left the shadows behind, she couldn't shake the feeling that something down there had awakened. And it knew her name. The base came into view, sprawling, sunlit, unaware of the storm she carried inside. Avery was safe. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt watched. As wheels touched runway, she whispered a truth she wished wasn't real. Some warnings don't come to stop you. She powered down, helmet heavy in her lap. They come to prepare you. Only then did she realize her hands were shaking, and this time she wasn't sure if it was fear or recognition. Who was she now, pilot, survivor, or the only witness to a truth no one else could hear? The desert evening had a strange stillness, like the world was holding back a breath it didn't want to release. Norah rolled to a stop on the far end of the runway, canopy still closed. She didn't move. Not yet. Her hands rested on the controls long after shutdown, frozen, like the jet was the only thing keeping her from coming apart. Her headset hissed with ground chatter. men cheering, someone shouting that Avery's chute had been spotted, West demanding updates, Dawson requesting coordinates, voices layered, overlapping, urgent. But none of them mattered. Only one voice haunted her now. "You're not alone." She closed her eyes and the valley breathed behind them. Smoke, shadow, the impossible shape buried in the rock, Avery slipping toward it like a man surrendering to gravity, Marcus whispering through static that shouldn't exist. She didn't know how long she sat there. Someone finally tapped the metal ladder. "Captain." It was Reeves, his voice careful, gentle. She opened her canopy, slow like waking from a dream. Reeves climbed partway up. The sling, the exhaustion, the worry, it all showed. "You did good." She stared through him, then past him at the ridge beyond the base, dark, silent, watching. Reeves lowered his voice. "Avery's alive." Norah nodded. Relief didn't come. Reeves swallowed. "What happened out there?" She looked at him like the answer was too large to speak. "They wanted him," she said. "Who?" She didn't know. Or worse, she feared she did. Something answered for her. Not with words. With memory. "He's not who you think." Reeves frowned, reading the turmoil in her eyes. "Come on," he murmured. "Let's get you inside." She climbed down, boots hitting concrete, but her legs felt wrong, like the ground wasn't stable. Reeves stepped closer, ready to catch her if she crumbled. She didn't, she wouldn't. But something inside her had cracked, and cracks never ask permission before spreading. Colonel West waited in the briefing room, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. He dismissed everyone else when she entered, Reeves included, and shut the door. "What happened?" 3 words. "Easy." "Impossible." Norah stared at the table. Maps, flight paths, comm logs, all meaningless. None of them showed the valley she saw, not the real one. "Avery's aircraft lost power," she said. "Remote blackout, controls unresponsive. Cause? Unknown." West rubbed his temples. "And you?" "I triggered emergency cut so he could eject." "And the crash?" "I guided him out. His jet was lost." West nodded slowly, though his eyes searched deeper. "What else?" Her fingers curled against her thigh. Silence stretched. West's tone softened. "I'm not looking to punish anyone. I just need the truth." The truth. She wasn't sure she could survive hearing it aloud. But she tried. "We found more artillery. Hidden. No heat signatures, no radar. Something guided us to them." Something. Not someone. West caught that. "What guided you?" She held his eyes, voice quiet. "Marcus." West didn't move, didn't blink. For a moment she thought he hadn't heard. Then, "Your comm logs show nothing." "I know." "No transmissions, no reception." "I know." "So you're telling me?" "I heard him." West exhaled hard, not disbelief, not anger. Fear. Then he leaned back slowly. "Was anyone else in comm range?" She shook her head. "He spoke to only you." "Yes." West's eyes hardened, calculating. "How did you know about the hidden batteries?" Norah swallowed. "He told me." West didn't dismiss it, didn't laugh, didn't mock. He nodded, thoughtful. "Did anyone else hear anything?" Avery didn't. West stood, packing once. Something else happened. Not a question. Norah's throat tightened. There was an object. West stopped moving. "Define object." "It was in the rock, buried, camouflaged, too big for artillery, too still to be a vehicle." He stared. "And then?" "It pulled him." "Pulled Avery." "His aircraft like gravity, or a magnet." West inhaled. And after he ejected, it sank into the rock, disappeared. Silence. He looked at her like weighing the truth against the impossible. Her voice trembled. I saw it. Wes sat again, folding his hands. You're sure? Yes. More silence, then. Reeves told me you saved Avery by cutting his power before impact. Norah nodded. What made you do that? Her pulse quickened. Instinct. West raised an eyebrow. Instinct or instruction? Norah stared. He knew. She nodded once, small, ashamed. Instruction. From Marcus. Yes. West leaned back, processing. Do you believe he's alive? No. Then what do you believe? She stared at the wall, the valley, the impossible buried beneath it. I believe something followed us home. West's face tightened, a flicker of recognition, like part of him wasn't surprised, like he'd feared this moment long before. Captain, he said quietly, I need you to think very carefully. Norah's pulse slowed, heavy, thick. What aren't you telling me? She asked. West didn't answer, but he didn't deny there was more. Instead, he changed. Just a little. Like a door inside him closed. We've got Avery on the ground. Alive, that's priority. He stood abruptly. Get some rest. It wasn't a request. You're grounded until further notice. Norah's stomach dropped. Grounded. Not punishment. Protection. Colonel. It's in order. They stared long, quiet, heavy. West didn't look away. You bring back 300 soldiers and save a pilot's life, but if you go back up there now, he hesitated, I don't think you'll come back. Norah felt a slow ache rise, painful, familiar. It sounded too much like Marcus. He let her go. Not physically, something deeper. She turned, exiting without another word. Her boots thudded down the hallway, each step heavier than the last. The world around her blurred, voices fading into white noise. Grounded. But the sky wasn't done with her. She knew it. It knew her. She sat alone outside the hangar that night. The desert wind was cold, carrying dust that stung her eyes. Stars hung high, distant. The base looked calm, patrols, fuel trucks, the soft hum of life continuing. Something she no longer felt part of. She held Marcus's letter. If you're reading this, it means you made it. Keep flying for both of us. She let the words bruise her again. Was that you, she whispered, or something pretending to be you? Wind answered with silence. Grief moved strangely. Some days it was quiet, some days it screamed, and sometimes it spoke like a friend you shouldn't trust. A figure approached, slow, hesitant. Reeves. He sat beside her without asking, shoulders closed, sharing the cold. You know, he said softly, Command thinks you're shaken. Aren't you? Reeves breathed out a shaky laugh. I saw my jet pulled toward a mountain by something I can't explain. I'm lucky to be alive. So yes, I'm shaken. He glanced at her. But you look like you lost something. Her voice was small. I lost someone a long time ago. Reeves nodded. And tonight you think you almost lost him again. Silence. Norah stared at her hands. I thought grief was about losing someone, but it's not. It's about not knowing what to do with the part of them you keep. Reeves swallowed. What did you keep? She looked up, eyes shining in dim light. His voice. Reeves didn't look away. I heard something too. She blinked. What? Right before I lost control, it wasn't words, more like pressure, like someone wanted me. Norah felt her chest seize. Not her imagination. Not hallucination. Something real. Reeves studied her face. You think Marcus saved me, he murmured. She didn't answer, because she didn't know, because it terrified her to believe. But what terrified her more was doubting. Reeves lowered his voice. West is worried. He thinks there's more to this than we're being told. He knows something. Yes. We're blind. Yes. Norah closed her eyes. The whisper returned, soft, fragile. He's not who you think. She opened her eyes, staring into darkness. Who, she whispered, who aren't they? Reeves frowned. What? She didn't repeat it. Some words weren't meant to be shared. Not yet. They found Avery the next morning, shaken, bruised, alive. He didn't speak. Not about the fall. Not about the valley. Not about what he saw. He only asked one question. Did she make it out too? The medics looked confused. Who? Avery looked at Norah. The woman speaking to me. Reeves stiffened. Norah's heart froze. What woman? Avery swallowed. The one who told me to eject. Norah went pale. Marcus hadn't spoken to Avery. Someone else did. Someone who sounded like her. A cold tremor crawled down her spine. Reeves whispered the only thing that felt true. You're not done. Norah stared toward the ridge, distant, silent. No pulse. No signal. No shimmer. Just waiting. The truth wasn't buried out there. It was coming. For her. And she understood finally, painfully. The dead weren't trying to haunt her. They were trying to warn her. Because the war she'd been fighting wasn't the war that mattered. The real war was just beginning. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts. And sometimes the sky calls your name long before you're ready to answer.